But the thing is like there's a hating of certain things, and it's like, why don't you just tweak it? Why don't you just, put your own flair on the thing? If you hate it so much, but if somebody wants it, somebody desires it, why not? Somebody's still going to come into your shop tomorrow and want a full Celtic knotwork sleeve,
Yeah, and you're sitting there doing nothing because you're fucking a hater. So what are you going to do?
The thing that keeps drawing me back to it is there is no ceiling to this. It's constantly evolving. You will never perfect this. There's always going to be a new twist on things. And after 30 years of thinking that we were hitting the ceiling,
it's just about to pop.
It's going, and
it's getting wild. What's happening? I'm Austin Spencer. This is Support Your Local Tattooer. I'm extremely excited to hang out with my buddy Noelin Wheeler today. He's been featured on Inkmaster. He's a traveler. He's a family man. He's an overall extremely talented tattooer. But
appreciate it. Thanks for having me. My name's Noelin Wheeler. I'm 27-year tattooer. I've known Austin now for 20 years, I guess, somewhere around there.
Fucking hey, has it been?
Yeah. It's a wild ride up until then, and then beyond, right? Where we're going. So thanks for having me out here.
Dude. You're rolling through town doing a guest spot.
I moved to Austin about 2-3 years ago. I wanted to raise my family around extended family and wanted to be a little bit more cognitive of that. And it's been great. But I still miss Vegas, and I still have my friends here, my clients, of course, but you develop these relationships with your clients, and I don't know, I can't miss out on that. And I always feel bad, trying to tell them like, hey, come out and visit me, just buy a plane ticket and get a room, and all that, and I wish I had a better facility to kind of like an apartment, sort of thing that they can actually stay at, and so maybe one day, hopefully I can do something like that. But I always feel bad about saying like, sorry, I can't work on this. I, have to come out and visit. So I'm trying to take that pressure away from them for continuing projects or starting new ones. And so,
So your studio in Austin is a private studio?
Private studio. I've had a private studio. It's more than nice. I need. Way more than I need. I do cartwheels in there and stuff. Get your so blood going in the morning. There's so much room. So much wasted room. Like now, I had it with the intention of having a few artists there, but I'm not good at having big shops, or at least like with the starting a new family and everything. I wasn't geared in that direction. So I like the idea of guest artists coming and visiting and having a space for them. And so I actually have it on a digital key that I just email them, and they have a key to the place on their phone. So they can literally come and go as they please, and I don't even need to really be there,
That's great.
And I love this setup. It's quaint. It's your own private studio whenever you come, and it's your own deal, So it's simple, but it's enough space that you can actually enjoy it and not feel too crammed. But I love the private studio, and then I also love like going and actually guest spotting at friends' shops, because as you know, they're all different. They're flavored different. There's all kinds of different characters. Each one has its own, appeal, and I don't know. It's, as we were talking last night, and we were talking about some of the old stories that we have collected over the years of all the different, ratchety things that happen in shops, and street shops and everything. And I don't necessarily want to go back to that, it's fun, and maybe we glorify them a little bit too much, but I think
it had its place in its time.
It has place and time, I would go back and do it 1,000 times over for sure, but at 45 now, I don't know if that's really where I need to be. So, but I do love going to, friends shop in Dallas and Austin and Washington now, Montana. And it's also like a little bit of a little vacation for me to be able to go and kind of sightsee and, get out of my hometown. And I feel like for myself, having a large shop, a buddy of mine in Dallas, he has 2 shops. Each one has, I think, damn near 20 artists, 15 to 20 artists.
Do you?
And it's, I think at one time he had like 15 apprentices, and it's like, I don't know how he handled it. I mean, he's an amazing dude.
What shop is that?
Dark Age.
Dark Age. Okay.
And Franco, and Frank, and hats off to him. They manage it. They do it well. And he's a great dude. So I realize my limitations and I don't have that ability. And at least, I don't know, maybe sometime in the future, but where my head's at with the kids, twins, just turned a year old. And another one on the way. So my hands are full and I definitely don't want to neglect a shop, by me being so involved in family, and I definitely don't want to take.
And to build a big shop, you got to be there. You got to be more. That's got to be priority number one.
For sure.
It's a lot.
I don't want to be that owner. I would never want to be that owner that just, I got the space and you work for me, and that it should be a family. It should be an extended family. So if I'm going to give it's justice, if I'm going to give those guys their due justice, I need to be there and I need to be a part of them,
Just keep rolling with what you're doing. You got a good system going on. What shops do you guest at when you come through Vegas, right? I mean, looks like you did 2 shops this time. You generally go to 7, right?
Before I was going to 7. That was my home base, but
you worked there for years.
And I worked there for years. Daniel's a good friend of mine. Em's a good friend of mine, and I love all the people there. This time around, I'm working at my buddy Miguel's shop, Camarillo. And Morbid Tattoo. And I've become great friends over the years, and I have a lot of fun there too. It's hard because I have a handful of shops that I kind of work at, and then I'm like splitting up the week going to 2 different shops. Another one is Nix's shop, Smiles and Cries.
Which is a pretty new shop, couple years old.
And you've been in there yet?
I haven't been in there yet, but I kind of want to talk to them. Like, he's a character.
Come by next week. I'll be there, and you got to see the place. He's an awesome dude.
Let's do that.
I think he's setting up a pod too. I think he's got one going on there too. But I get to, I don't know, be a tourist in other tattoo shops and get to hang out with my friends. And I don't miss out on that part of life. So being a traveling artist and having my own guest studio, to me, it fulfills, I have zero stress right now, and I feel fulfilled. So I definitely want to keep doing this for a while. I'm not sure if I'm going to stay in Austin. I have plans, but I want to also kind of see what those ventures may look like. So Austin for now. And see where it goes.
Pacific Northwest, maybe. So
most likely. Most likely. That's cool. Leaning in that direction.
Who's your buddy again that you're gonna go? He opened up his shop outside of Missoula, right?
James Strickland. Apex Tattooing in Missoula. Real nice studio there. Have you been to that?
I haven't been there yet.
I'm not sure if he'd actually opened his doors yet. But,
I'll be up there in July. I had lunch next to him randomly one day. I don't know if I told you that. I was just sitting next to this guy, and I was like, "You look familiar. I'm pretty sure you're a tattooer from Vegas." He's all
702. Right?
So shit. How'd you end up in Vegas though?
So I got my start in Alaska, late 90s. It was 97 when I first got into tattooing. I was 17 at the time. And, like any other 17-year-old, I had no direction. I was kind of leaning into the not so good direction. And a few friends had gotten tattooed in town. And I felt like I could just go and get something. So I started asking around, and most of the shops that would tattoo me they had carpet, they were tattooing on carpet. They were like, your feet would stick to it and everything. They had a dog in the corner. And it was just like, kind of like, all right, even at 17, I know like, that's probably not good. The guy's smoking.
What area was this in Alaska again?
Anchorage.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd lived outside of Anchorage, but a small place. But I didn't get a good vibe from, most of the shops that I was looking at there that wanted me to, sit down and get tattooed. So I came across Ray's tattoo, Dragon Ray. Dragon Ray. How classy is that?
It sounds 90s as fuck.
Yeah. His name in red and white on the, good dude. He gave me a start, right? And I think we talked about this a little bit last night, but the fact that we old schoolers, or myself and him and a lot of we believe that there is a place that you have to start and go by this metric to be a proper tattooer, and how much nonsense that actually is, and how much of a gatekeeping culture it used to be, and how much different it's become. It's amazing. I definitely love this a lot more. The explosion of art, the explosion of like creativity and allowing people to express themselves in unique ways and actually push the bounds of what they thought was capable, and laser it off, cover it up, black it out, cover it up with more, it's why not, right? It was such a taboo thing before, but it's like, says who, it says like these old guys who never even tried it, or they tried it with dated material, right? Dated machines, dated needles, dated inks, that aren't capable of doing that. now we actually have like, you offer like needles that actually are, finer, polished, longer tapered, thinner. So like we have better products nowadays that don't damage the skin so much, You can actually push things a little bit better. We have better healing practices. So the ideas that they had when I first came in of why it has to be this certain way, why you have to be taught by a traditional tattooer and you have to go into this hazing process and all that, it's nonsense, It's I think it's like a frat boy kind of thing. Like you have to
good old boy
join the
shit,
club, good old boy shit,
Yeah.
For me, I didn't have to go through any of that. The guy that I apprenticed under, he was an outlaw biker, and he was actually a solid guy. And he shopped there. He had another apprentice there, and he and I still great friends today. And
no shit,
and get along.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I was just up
Did you
there.
talk to Dragon Ray at all?
He's a wandering soul. So he's
just out and about cruising, doing his thing.
I don't think he has a MySpace.
Oh,
no, I don't even know if he has a phone number, to be honest. He's that kind
like
of guy,
old,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he doesn't, even Sam, he doesn't, they're a lot closer, but it's like 6 months from when they talk,
Well,
so it's like that sort of,
So
and it's just how he is,
How'd you convince Dragon Ray to take you on?
I went in there for a tattoo. I wanted to get some like little dorky, like, whatever off the wall, it's just the coolest one in amongst this flash, and at that time it was Crow, and I think Cherry Creek was around then too, but I think it was like beginning of Cherry Creek stuff. But it was a JD Crow tribal thing or whatever, It was like a yin yang, or not a yin yang, it was like a triple yin yang thing. This Japanese, whatever.
Okay.
Didn't know what it meant, and I was like, I want to get this.
It was just cool.
It was just cool at the time.
You were
It was like
18 or
17
Oh, okay.
at the time.
Yeah,
He's like, well, I'm not going to tattoo today, but if you want, your birthday's in 6 months, if you want, come by. And he's like, we talked a little bit, as an artist, he knew I like to draw comic books and stuff. Or he found out, I told him, but he said, come by, and like, if, this is a cool design, but if you want to like, kind of create something of your own, I can do custom work. So it's on my business card, right?
Yeah.
And, come by, and he kind of helped walk me through my first tattoo, which I thought was really, really cool. I don't know. I didn't deserve that, right? I don't know why that's what I mean. He's a good guy. And he actually,
that's cool.
He actually like introduced me into tattooing in a very proper manner. He was former Green Beret, clean freak, big dude, very, I don't know, imposing guy, and so, but solid, honest, great dude, and so for him to go, I don't know him. I don't know his family. I'm not a part of that world at all, for him to kind of give me that chance, I took it in all, I took it very serious. So
that's cool.
Like I said, I wasn't going in the right direction in life, and so I dropped it all. I saw it when I had an opportunity. I dropped all my friends. I dropped everything.
Nice.
And it just cleared out my life, cleared out my head, and I focused everything into tattooing. And I felt he deserved that, right? For
that happened pretty much naturally just from getting tattooed by him. And
I never got that opportunity from anybody else. Right?
Yeah.
So
that's how I got my connection with the guy who I got my first tattoo from.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's cool.
Is it Pricks with it?
Yeah. Dave Loeb. We worked at Pricks. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time. Yeah.
And so when somebody like actually goes out of their way for you, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I saw at that age, I didn't really, my dad's a great guy and he's, a huge influence on my life, but I didn't really have like anybody else, and so for me being like a young man, having somebody else in the world, like actually giving me an opportunity like that. And
he was like a cool uncle,
Yeah. And I always felt that, like out of anything that I had done so far, it was when I took those big leaps that I was satisfied in life. When I was afraid, when I was too coy about something, when I didn't take those chances, I felt lesser. I felt like I missed
feel
out.
alive.
I should have talked to her. I should have, I didn't say the right, all those little things that we, that we get anxiety from, right? But I felt that like whenever I took those big leaps, whenever I got into snowboarding and I actually, started going down diamonds and stuff, and I got really, confident, that's when I had the most fun. That's when I actually like enjoyed life, and it really like colorized my world, gave me direction. So, giving that opportunity, dove right into it. And I worked there for a little while. Ray's a little difficult to deal with, right? Again, like outlaw biker stuff going on, right? And At the time I was working there, it was 8 hours a day. I was required to be there for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Didn't get paid. That wasn't a thing. My payment was the information I was given, and every little bit, like, cherished like gold.
You weren't working at all then?
I was. Oh no, I was.
Oh, okay.
So I was working at the shop, right? 8 hours, 40 hours a week, right? But I had to make ends meet. Had a girlfriend at the time, and she was working too. But I needed to make my half of rent. I moved out when I was 15. I started working when I was 15, and I moved out at 16. So I've always been, for the most part, on my own.
Yeah.
And I had to make rent and everything. So I started working at the airport at night for 10 hours a day, 4 days a week. So 4 tens.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah. So most of the week I didn't sleep. And then a couple of days I got like 8 hours, right? Just broken up a little bit. And it kind of, I did that for about a year. And that was kind of my introduction into like what it takes to work hard, I wanted to do this. I wanted to be a tattooer. I saw that as like a direction. I didn't know it was going to be this, right? I just saw it as like, oh, I get to draw on people. This is fun. Like I don't need to go and work at Pizza Hut. I don't need to like have this like corporate type job. I don't need to be like in this like climb the ladder type world. Like I can just be myself. Yeah. I get to hang out with my friends. Focus on. And I get to enjoy like the conversations with interesting people that we meet. Right. Like how cool is that? Like, it's a dream. And I knew that like it was going to take a lot of effort to get there. I was an okay artist, but I needed to work at it. And I know some people have a natural, and I had the things that I had were I could envision large space things that I can compose pretty well, right? But I needed to kind of refine that a little bit, and then obviously like the technical ability never was there, coming from like comic book drawing and artwork, I was better at fine line stuff, and I appreciate that. But so Ray, I think, saw like what I was capable of doing and helped me expand on that. Did that for about a year and a half, and like I don't know, I let my old life kind of get back at me, and I was like, fuck this, I'm not earning shit, I'm working my ass off. I'm, a year and a half into a 3-year apprenticeship, and I'm going nowhere. I'm barely being taught anything. It was that old school earn your way type thing. And so I left. I started working as a dishwasher on this remote island about a few hundred miles from Russia.
So you just bounced on the apprenticeship.
I was like, job. Hey man,
did your chick too or no?
I haven't been paying my car payment for 8 months. My girl's been, paying most of the rent. I'm working, at this other shop, but then I also have these other, responsibilities, and I can't afford, to this life, right?
Yeah.
I think she was in between jobs too, so it was getting difficult.
Did you get to tattoo at all?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
No,
yes.
No. At that time, I think I did like a little BS on my leg or something like that,
Yeah.
But not really. The first year, it was cleaning toilets, drapes, and all that. At the time, it was mixing ink. Building machines, building needles, building grips, and everything.
Getting him prepped for the day,
building everything. Like we didn't have. We didn't, obviously rotary machines didn't exist back then, but you also like didn't have the ability to just order things online for the most part. You could, but it's also Alaska, right? So everything is like,
how are you guys acquiring everything?
60% plus, right?
Oh, okay.
So it's expensive to get things up there, and you end up manufacturing a lot of stuff yourself, It's just, so you would buy, bulk packs of needles, loose needles, and you would, solder them all together. You build the needle bars, reuse needle bars and stuff. You would build the actual tubes themselves, we would, had somebody cut,
the steel down.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Steel,
okay.
And then we'd like kind of forge the tips a little bit. This is around the time when like mags first came out, before curve mags and everything. So like we were kind of fucking around with that. Sorry.
We're like flat stacked.
And then you separate them, so you just like, you flat stack them and then weave like a
razor blade through them,
and then like heat it with a lighter and just kind of spread a little bit,
Okay. Yeah.
And so
after you solder them and breathe in flux for fucking hours.
Yeah. Not very consistent, but and whatever, and at that time, I was, drink and smoke and everything. And I still to this day remember the taste of nicotine and flux, like that was like, I think old schooler tattooers know that,
the smell,
like
the burn in your nose. Yeah.
And it should make scented candles like that, like I think that would do well in tattoo shops, like, nicotine and flux flavored scented candles.
Yeah. Did they smoke in the shop then too?
No, not
No.
him. No,
Okay.
no. He was a straight edge guy. He didn't drink.
Oh, really?
Drugs, nothing. No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
He was just a big hard ass guy.
Yeah.
And and so like I think that was also like good for me to kind of see like what I in now even to this day like envision as like a good guy, even though he was like living on the outside of like a normal society kind of thing, but like what to represent yourself as, who to be as a person, being an honest, decent, genuine person, who holds his own and protects his people and everything.
Yeah.
So I left that, started working on that island and everything, and I bought some tattoo equipment while I was out there, and I started tattooing the people. It was like a camp of like 70 people. It was like this thing out in the Bering Sea.
Whoa.
It's crazy. Like it's in between the Bering Sea. Government contract work, man. I was getting paid $40 an hour. It was $20 an hour to wash dishes out on this island. Full medical, full dental, everything, stuff. I had a 401,
okay,
to wash dishes.
Whoa.
And this is in the 90s, washing dishes, so no brainer, right? And every dollar that I invested into their 401, I think it was up to even my whole check, they would match it. Yeah. So like I didn't do that, but I think it was a half my check. So I can invest half my check into my 401. They would match it on top of that. So I did that, not the full amount, but I think I did like 10% or something like that. And that got me a little bit more mindful about, money and handling money. And so, anyway, I opened up a little tattoo shop out there.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, that was my very first private studio.
No shit.
Yeah. Before it was, and so again, like this whole, like, you need to do the apprenticeship, you need to go through these old ways. Like I opened a shop like when I was like 19, fucking desert island where there's no opportunity to get tattooed from anybody else. I had it locked down. I had the monopoly on that island. And so I did a lot of fucked up tattoos on some drunk people out there, and good times.
Out of like a legit retail space, or did you?
No.
House?
It's all like now. Basically, it's all like government dorms, and so you are issued a dorm, and because what I was gonna do, the lady who was who would set you up the room, she was like, oh, okay, well, I'll give you the room next to you, so like basically I had like
two hotel rooms, kind of like Oh, okay.
It's basically like two adjoining rooms next to two adjoining rooms, so I had like. Yeah, it was pretty sweet.
So if everybody was getting paid good, were you charging like decent rates?
Not really.
I mean,
just
it was just $100 or whatever, just some random shit.
Basically,
doing some wolves and like eagles or what?
Yeah, and tribal buffaloes and
you
name it. I was good at tribal back in the day. Like that's what I could accomplish.
You're drawing all that shit on, or doing
hand drawing it. There's no stencil machine, something. There's no like wireless printers or anything like that. So we had the hectograph pencils and hectograph ink and stuff, and so we'd actually like kind of draw it with the pen, and just kind of wing it, for the most part. I think that was even before people started using Sharpies. Like this is weird, right? Kind of think about that. It's kind of odd, but so after working a real job, and it was a good job and I enjoyed it and it was fun, and I think I moved from dishwashing to like shipping and receiving. So I was operating front loaders and all that and lifts and everything, and so I was taking things off of planes and whatever, and so it became like a real fun job, but isolation, all that, I said on Shimia that the guy who sold me on going out there, he's like, oh, there's like 70 to 100 people there, and like it's nice. It's an island. It's an isolated island, and there's a girl behind every tree. It's crazy.
Weird.
And I was like, wow. And I go out there. There's no fucking trees.
So you went out there single?
Yeah.
There's a girl behind every tree.
I looked.
He's not this dumb little. So I need a fucking dishwasher bad.
It's a crazy place. Shimia, Alaska. To look it up. It's the Forgotten War. It's where Japan occupied America, and it's a part of the U.S. history that's just not talked about, because Japan actually occupied U.S. territory and held it for a while.
Whoa.
So Attu, Agatu, Shimia, these island chains were conflicted over around the time of Normandy. I think it was like the second highest kill rate in World War II. And it was from the Pacific side, right? And so we also had like, the Guam thing and all that, but like this was the Alaskan version, and it was us fighting against the Japanese, and it was both of us fighting, us and the Japanese fighting against the elements, right? It was so bad out there. Bering Sea is rough. The Pacific, where it meets, there are two different actual bodies of water with different temperatures. And so there's a massive collision that happens with these huge waves. It looks like along the Bering Strait, it looks like boiling water. Like when you look out in the ocean, it looks like massive boiling water where these two ocean sea meets,
Whoa.
Yeah. There's a shelf under there, but it's like it's something to do with like the temperature change and the direction of the current,
Yeah.
But it's creepy. There's wrecked ships out there. There's wrecked oil tankers, wrecked fishing.
Did you do a lot of like exploring and shit when you're out there?
Unexploded ordnances. So there's minefields everywhere. There's only so much, that you can explore. There's a few like jade mines out there that you would climb into, but they only go back like 20 or 30 feet or so, and then they peter out to nothing, it's kind of creepy. But yeah, it was an adventure. And working out there for a little while, I missed it. I got like a little taste of it doing that, and I called Ray and I apologized, and I was like, you know what, I'm just whatever it takes. I'm gonna tank everything out. Who cares? I'm just gonna drive this. So I went back into tattooing. Actually, no, back up. There was a little bit something else that trying to trigger this. So I went back to Anchorage. So I got back into my old life, being just a degenerate and being,
just raising yourself essentially, like
raising myself,
like getting in trouble. I guess I could talk about this.
I don't want to talk about it, but it's so I even gotten like involved in like a shooting, right? And so it was like and it almost like killed somebody. And so then I'm like on this point where it's like I'm on this teetering point of life where it's like, okay, I'm on this edge where like my life is now going in a direction where there's not much of a future for it, right? And I could see that clearly. The other things I can't really, say too much, but like there's an involvement that I was really attracted to. There's a thing that I was really attracted to, and it wasn't going in a good direction.
Yeah.
There was another thing that I was really attracted to that was going in a very positive direction. The thing that was in a very positive direction was viewed as a negative in society.
Tattooing. Yeah.
Weird. Right?
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah.
And my dad was good about it, but mom didn't really care for it, and she was okay about it. She just didn't really see it as like a legitimate thing. And a couple of my degenerate friends thought it was cool, but like for the most part, like it was not anything like it is nowadays. It was definitely like, shunned upon, especially, remote, like conservative, Alaska at that time. So after the shooting thing, I kind of like reevaluated life, and I was like, okay, that's not where I want to be. That's like I was in the right, in this situation, but it was also one of those like, even if I was right, I almost ended somebody.
Yeah.
It's a brother, it's a father. It wasn't a father, but it's somebody's son. It could be a father in the future, that sort of stuff. And so that weighed heavy on me for a long time. And I saw that tattooing was actually something positive. That like there's people that come in and they're going through trauma. They're going through something, that's very hard to overcome. And we get to be that little gateway for their recovery, not to give us too much
credit, but
at least we're
help.
somebody there, and it does help.
Sure.
And I've noticed that in difficult times in my life, tattoos hurt a lot less, because it's weird. It helps you. It's a little vacation. It helps you walk out of the little loop that you're stuck in. And so I get it, but it also helps like signify these different mile markers in life. And it's a great documentary of who you are, it's a great diary of who you are. And so, I wanted to be a part of that. And this is again, like before it became like what it is now. But at that time, I can kind of see what it was to me, and I can kind of see what it was to a few people that were getting it. Some of them were just cool pictures, and I love that too, but of course. But I got into it. Ray took me back.
Ray took you back.
The state of Alaska did not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for anybody who's watching Alaska, they have the most ridiculous health department up there. It was brought on and encouraged by a tattooer who was a gatekeeper, and he was trying to keep artists from coming into the state. So he made it very, very difficult for future artists to come into the state or new apprentices to come in. And since I had done a half an apprenticeship and he was aware of small town kind of stuff. You know, he was aware that I wasn't at Ray's anymore. And then all of a sudden now I'm coming back and I'm saying like, I'm continuing my education. And he said, well, you got to redo your 3 years right from today. And it's like, so he was like a bit of an old schooler gatekeeper guy.
The 3 years was the state's regulation.
It
wasn't just Ray's
regulation.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it wasn't anybody's. It was, well, it wasn't the state's. It was old schoolers, Larry Allen, it was their way of kind of, I guess, filtering out like the,
Yeah.
And I get it, and it's, and I do appreciate like somebody who is wanting to be a part of the business or being a part of the industry. Like somebody is going out of their way to mentor you. And it's not just sticking needles in people and drawing, like that's cool and everything. But it's also, find a good character to kind of model after, of somebody who you look up to in the industry. Great artist, but he's an asshole. Why would you want to be a part of that world? Right. It should be a good person, and then do them the justice of giving them, your time, and that's what they would desire, and I think that's fair, so, but the thing is I was doing that with Ray, and he was trying to keep new talent out. Right. And so even pushed for the state to, I'm not sure if it's still this way, but you had to have a license from Alaska or an equally, regulated state in order to work there. So Shige couldn't work there. You know what I mean? Like, like some other, brilliant tattooer from somewhere else in the world can't work there because they have to go through a apprenticeship under them.
Oh my God. That's like, interesting. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's just old school nonsense that's still there. I was kind of forced, and not unforced, but it was not going to work out for me staying up there. And at that time, Ray had opened a second shop in Idaho.
Oh, no shit.
Yep. So okay, cool. I was down in Boise for about a year.
That was your transfer?
Transferred down to Boise. That was my first time out of the state. I think it was 20 years old at the time. Right after 9/11, basically.
Oh, okay.
That's how us old schoolers view things, Like,
I was tattooing during that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got cheap tickets to New York, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I flew like the next couple
cheaper tickets the week after, I bet.
Yeah.
But so that was like my leaving Alaska, and I always thought that I was going to go back, but it just never really panned out. I was in Idaho for a year, went really broke. I think I was making like $300-500 a month kind of thing,
Tattooing at Ray's,
sleeping on,
people's couches. He bounced back and forth then?
He bounced back and forth. Yeah. Okay. He had another shop somewhere else. And so he's that guy, like he was old schooler. And when you move to Alaska and Idaho, you're doing that in, for an intention, like, so like you're a little bit more. And at that time, like, departments didn't really communicate too well. Right. So, like it's not really his name, right. But like, so there's like, he moved around a lot.
Yeah.
So, still does, he's still around. But so after that stint in Idaho, it was a college town, and it wasn't the Boise it is today. And I think there was like 5 shops there, not doing great. I had a friend in Vegas, and okay, he gave me an opportunity. He said that the guy he was working with, they would hire me on, and he said, just mail me your portfolio. How weird.
Okay.
Mail me your portfolio. I'll show it to him, and get you a job. So I started working at Wildside. If you remember that.
I remember the name, but I don't know why I don't remember where it's at.
It was Sharky's. He was
okay.
I think it was Bandito. So another outlaw biker shop.
Yeah.
And I think he had 5 shops in town altogether. It was Wildside and whatever else. It was like whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is my first introduction. I didn't even know what Vegas was, to be honest. Like, I was so dumb. Like, I didn't know what it was.
And that was when? That was like 2000. That was after 9/11. So
after 9/11,
2002 or something. Yeah.
I think it was like the January of 22. I got here, and like the apprenticeship with Ray and everything. You don't get like a card or anything. It's me. So like I got here, and they're like, oh, you need to have have an apprenticeship, under one of the shops here, and have somebody sign off on you, or you need to be a licensed artist in another state. And I was like, oh, okay, hang on a second. I went into my house and I went home, and then I just, typed up like, such and such Noelin graduated from his apprenticeship, blah, 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 and then I just signed it. It was like, here you go.
That's pretty badass.
Thank you.
Like yeah.
Here's your card, silly,
And the health department doesn't give, they're just like, cool.
There's like, yeah, where's my $90?
Yeah.
Thank you. Next, please.
That's awesome.
It's so like what we hope that the health department does. I don't think that they do so much of. I'm kind of on the, little government, type side of things, because I do think that there's like a bureaucracy that is just made to generate like income for themselves, and so what the health department does do, I don't think they don't crack down on scratcher shops. They don't crack down on, you know what I mean? Like they're like the things that we would hope, fish tanks on tattoo stations and stuff like the little snakes. It's like the little things, the gross stuff that people do, it's like there's no morality questionnaire on there,
no carpet. You're not supposed to have carpet in your station.
Why not?
Yeah.
Clean it every day, Got a Roomba.
So you jumped right into another biker shop.
How
was the culture there?
Fun stories with that one too.
Yeah. Because I worked in a biker shop and it was definitely an excessive amount of.
I was working there my first time in Vegas, and it was on Sahara and Maryland Parkway.
Okay.
So that's a fun part of town.
Yeah.
And the door locked at night. I was working from midnight until noon every day, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
It was because nobody wanted to work that shift. And again, nobody wanted to work 12s, 6/12s, right? But new here, I don't have any friends, I don't have anything to do. Got a gym membership and like a internet cafe membership thing, So I'd go and play video games, and I'd go to the gym and
like solo mission too. So you had one buddy here though. So
I had one buddy. Yeah. He left shortly afterwards. And it was funny because he set me up with a roommate and it was one of his buddies. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. My buddy Randy was still friends today, but I moved into Randy's house, and then Randy's like, hey, I'm leaving. I bought this house with my ex-wife. She's moving back in. I'm taking off. And I was like, I don't have any money. And he's like, don't worry about it. You can still pay her rent. And then I was, that was, so I'm living in a person. I don't know these people. So it's odd.
Working in a crazy ass biker shop.
Though, crazy ass biker shop. That went from one biker shop to another. And I think I was at Starborn for a little while with Cornfed.
Oh, okay.
On the strip. So that was also interesting.
He's still around in Vegas,
or did he move? He's in Boulder City now. Yeah, I think he's still around.
Oh, get out
in Boulder. Yeah,
he's the one that opened the shop there. It's the only shop. I drove by there yesterday, and I'm like,
is that right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go in there real soon. Yeah,
tell him what's up. Yeah,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's all into painting and stuff now. I went on tour with Ozfest with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was kind of wild. Touring with a traveling, metal like show. Awesome.
Yeah.
I think it was Ozzy. It was let me see, Slipknot. It was Demigul. As I Lay Dying.
Oh my God.
Dozen, of the same Hatebreed, I think was when they first came out, and so, we got to park our camper trailer thing next to all of them, and so we'd have like little barbecues at night and go and eat mushrooms and fireworks and stuff with some of the bands, OTAP, and have like tattoo parties and hotel rooms, and like we're in tattoo parties eating mushrooms, lighting fireworks off at the planes that are landing.
Best day ever. Dude. How long did that go on for?
3.5 months.
Okay. Yeah, and you're pretty much working every day, like
working every day, every other day. So every day it was like set up early in the morning, and some places busier than others, but for the most part, you like bang out like 20 tattoos in a day. Ridiculous. AC didn't work half the time, it's crammed, and a hot like metal, thing in the middle of summer. Yeah. And so like you're sweating all over your tattoo and it's nasty and
everybody's
and
like
it's rock
intoxicated as fuck. Like
so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does that work though? Like you just like Cornfed knew like a tour manager or some shit, and they're like, yeah, just you can cruise with us? Or
so somebody else had the gig before. And they got hemmed up from selling a lot of cocaine to some of the band members.
Okay.
And so they could no longer do the tour. And they
tattoos and cocaine.
That's weird.
I know a handful of coworkers.
They go together
in that business.
Apparently. That's how you work so hard. So I guess he knew had known Cornfed in the past, and so he was kind of hemmed up with court stuff, so he couldn't do the next tour. Gave the thing to Fed.
And the whole rig and everything.
The whole rig.
You're just take over.
Might have sold it to him, but he gave him the the contract.
The
or whatever.
Keys have been passed on.
We did it, and it was God. I haven't talked to the guys that were on that trip with me, but it was ill planned from the get go. And so it was wild. I mean, by the time we got back, that RV. Leaf springs in the back, on a solid axle, but like the leaf springs on one side were broken. The lights didn't work. So there's no brake lights on the thing. The mechanism that drops down the stabilizer, when it's not up all the way, it makes a beeping noise. They were up all the way, but the beeping noise wouldn't go away. So we're driving around this thing, and by the end of the show, it's dented on the side. Lights don't work. Constant beeping. You're driving at 3 a.m. Deet, 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 deet.
You move the tables and shit to tattoo out of there, or just tattoo off the tables?
We're actually pulling like a food truck that was kind of converted into a tattoo shop. Like it held water and stuff. It had like a sink. Certain places wanted you, that sort of thing. So it had power in there. We had a generator and like some of the places we actually didn't have the clientele. We couldn't work. For whatever reason. I forget.
Like who was coming?
Some of the places we went to, I think it was Kansas. They wouldn't let us tattoo because I didn't have a high school diploma. It was like weird little stuff like that. In Florida, we had to have a doctor go in and see how we set up things and see if we're like safe enough. And
so the promoter obviously had all their responsibilities and we're responsible for
our responsibility.
Each show changed.
Every other day. So one day working your butt off, tattooing and setting up, breaking down, and the next day absolute boredom, driving from one city to the next. It was cool. It was fun. A lot of great stories to get into with that, but
I want to hear some. I just know, it's a party train.
It's a party train. We got some tackle. We stopped. We were kind of frustrated with the traveling thing, and so we convinced them to stop and get some tackle, and we went out fishing next to this like little power plant, which I'm thinking like the Simpsons, right? And like there's like the generating thing with like water, and so we're sitting there fishing off there, but it's a real high, current, undertow kind of thing, and there's a little girl with her family on the other side of the embankment. She fell in somehow, me and some of the guys there was already people in the water, and they swam out to get her, but pulling her back in, like there was such an undertow, it was difficult. And so Robert and I, we actually got out there and helped them pull her back in and stuff,
Good Lord. Yeah.
It's just all the like little things that go on a trip. It's just like, whoa, that's wild.
Traveling across country is fucking great though. It puts things into perspective. And
so
you've been a roamer since day one, dude.
Since day one.
That's great.
My dad was military, so we traveled. We ended up in Alaska, but for the most of my life, we were like every 4 years moving to a new place. I was born in Ohio, moved to Japan, lived in Florida, Washington, Alabama, Alaska.
You did live in Japan, you said?
For a little bit.
Little tiny
guy. So a little guy.
Yeah.
Little flashbulb memories of the place. I'd love to go back. But,
oh my God, that'd be great.
But that would be great. But one day,
Yeah.
But I've been to every state now, I think, other than Maine. But I've lived in a lot of different places. I love it. I think that's the jewel of life. If you can travel, I get the most out of it. And I feel like I'm more cultured from it, especially like living in a place like Alabama, like we were living in, BFE, Alabama, Wetumpka. And, so like living around that versus living around people in Panama City versus living around, people in Washington versus Alaska versus Vegas, Texas, like everybody has like such a great opinion about their neighboring state, or like, oh, Californians are always like this. New Yorkers are always like that. Texans are always like this. It's like, you've never even been there. What are you talking about?
Bullshit ass opinion.
Go, they're not like that. In Texas, it's like, oh, these Californians are moving here and they're driving like crazy. It's like, no, you drive like crazy. Like it's not, I've been there. It's crazy over there, but this is a different crazy. Like, this is a whole nother type of crazy. So it's always like, oh, my neighbor's so horrible. My neighboring state's so horrible and whatnot. But every place has its own flavor and everything. I don't know. There's I don't know. And I don't know. So I want to keep traveling. I want to keep going and doing like this, like guest spotting, traveling, convention circuit stuff. I don't know. We have such a fortunate life to be able to allow this. A lot of people don't don't get this opportunity. So with the kids now, I want to raise them in that world and bring them up and
show them all the shit, man. Thing. Yeah, you got three. So you'll have 3 boys,
twins that are just a year old now.
Yeah,
and then I've got.
They're only a year. For some reason, I thought, oh my God, I don't even know.
They're walking, they're climbing, they're taking off knobs on stuff already. Like, I wasn't expecting all this kind of stuff, So like all my little barriers that I put up, they're trash,
Yeah.
Now they're at the reaching level that nothing can be on the counter, already. And if they grow up anything like me, Val has her hands full.
Yeah.
It's like there's going to be stitches, there's going to be broken bones, there's going to be
a lot of fighting within the household,
holes in the wall, there's going to be broken things in the wall, a car's going to get crashed or flipped or something, something's going to happen. They're going to gravitate to motorcycles apparently, so because
you've been riding motorcycles for a real long time too, like part of your roaming.
That's another thing, and I don't know if it's like a genealogy thing, like maybe my great ancestors passed down, maybe they were horse riders back in the day. So I never rode a bike up until I was mid-20s, I think.
Oh, okay.
Never got into it, never had an interest in it. I had bicycles and stuff, and they were cool, but like I never had an interest in getting a dirt. I rode a friend's dirt bike, but I never like desired it. I was never in motocross, never in anything like that.
Yeah.
I got a sport bike and you're flying, it's the closest you're ever going to get to flying. You're sitting on this thing, sailing around the world, sailing around the country and everything. I got into sport bikes,
you got into adventure bikes later on, right?
Yeah.
Or like we call them,
speed's fun. And all that, but at some point you run out of road and road services change, on a daily. So even if you know what that road is, it changes. So you can't be confident in corners. Tracks are the way to go, track days. But then it's the same, circuit, and so that's fun too. But like I kept running out of roads. I started doing like massive road trips on sport bikes.
On sport bikes, road trips. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's
I was just
uncomfortable as fuck or what?
Not really. You get out, every hour you got to get up, or every 100 miles you got to stop and gas anyways. And so I would actually take my helmet off, relax, get something to drink, and kind of make it comfortable. But I went from that to adventure bikes to, the dual sport stuff, mainly because I kept running out of roads and you'd see all these little dirt trails go off.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty handy. I'm pretty good at figuring things out, and tooling around with things. So working on motors and changing tires and changing, chains and everything, and just tinkering and figuring out problems. I'm pretty decent with it, and I'm not too.
You ever done any like tours on your motorcycle, like a tattoo tours, like go from spot to spot?
That was on the list of things to want.
We had an artist come through years ago that rode his bicycle from the East Coast to the West Coast and went from tattoo shop to tattoo shop.
I think I'm doing something cool, somebody just one-ups you.
He straight rolled up to our shop with the fucking saddlebags as road bike and had been sleeping off the fucking highway all the way. Like I got to get him on here one day too.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be fun, like your adventure bike and then set up. But you got your hands full right now. Getting I'm trying to do that and getting back to the family.
The old overland lifestyle stuff now. I'm trying to do that with an overlander. So I'm trying to do like camping
your rig
along
is
the way.
Fucking crazy impressive. It's like so.
It's a little mini home. I got a mini home, a tiny home on the back of a crazy aggressive off road vehicle. Yeah, and I can take it damn near anywhere my Tacoma can go, other than the size of the thing.
You still have your Tacoma too. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yep. So the Tacoma is pretty capable, for what, I think it's an awesome platform, but I got a 2500 with the camper on the back. And so I put a lot into that one, a lot of thought, and it's a bigger, heavier vehicle. I think I'm at 14,000 pounds.
Yeah. It's like a flatbed on the back, right? So you can take that whole cabin off.
Yep.
And I saw it when I was in Austin. I was like, this is the fucking craziest thing. So how are you going to put all 3 boys in there? And then we're going to tour, tattoo, 3 kids,
tattoo,
you need your own fucking TV show,
right?
And then,
I'm working on it. I've started that little.
Luckily, Mama is a nurse, right? So, has the education of it or whatever.
Yeah. So she's good. She's seen some things. She was working in she's working in the emergency room for a while, so she's comfortable, with that. And she asked for boys, and she got them. And
damn,
I don't know if she knows what she asked for. you know, it's like they're going to be peeing on things. They're going to be, dismantling everything. You think that thing doesn't come apart, they'll figure out how to get it apart.
Stiff socks everywhere. Disturbing.
Well, these tube socks hard. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm 45 now, just starting this road that so many people have been on for a while. And like, I'm envious of the time that they got when they were younger, but I'm also super excited about where I'm going with it, and I don't know. I know that children kind of change your perspective and kind of give you a little bit more purpose at younger years of life, and kind of force you to be less selfish and be more driven towards family. And I get that, I don't know how great of a father I would be, me personally, at 20 years old.
Yeah.
And so for my dad, as little, I don't know if I could have done as well of a job as he has done, and so the disagreements that we have and everything, now that I'm actually a dad and seeing what it actually takes, as somebody who's stable in life, who has who's been able to pursue his dreams and his goals and be able to pursue, I found tattooing and I desired that. And so I pushed into that as hard as I could. I couldn't do that I don't know if I would have been able to do that on the same level that, I might have always second guessed where I could have gone with it. I've traveled the world. I've been on TV, the Ink Master thing.
Yeah,
I was gone for
that too.
Right. Like the Ozfest tour, it's 3 months. You don't want to be away from.
No, for sure.
I was asked to be in that environment either, right? So
finding a balance between your extreme passions for your career and your also extreme passions for your family. I always
exploring the motorcycle thing,
interested in hearing about how people find their balance. I
would go out for weeks to Baja, I would go out for weeks to Canada. I would go across country on these bikes and stuff, and I got to really solo the world in our continent.
That's cool.
And I got to enjoy that. I think there's a Tattoo Dan. He's been doing it now for a while. I've been following him. Crazy adventures. He's in the Middle East. He's all over the place. So
he's a tattooer too?
Yeah. I think he's out of Nevada too. I'll have to try to link you up with him. He would be a great person to talk to.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, no, he's living that dream. And, and so, I'm envious of a lot of people's lives, I'm just super excited about life,
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's cool. The way you're doing it. That's awesome. That's a different spin on it.
It's fun to pull an artist, pull from everybody.
Yeah. And I was having breakfast with my friend this morning and the people who go oh, it must be nice. And it's like,
no.
We all live on the same planet. You in
hands
America,
work, your feet work. Figure it out.
You have a lot of opportunities that, not a lot of people in this world have, and there are some circumstances like the Ink Master thing.
Tell me about that.
Somebody reached out to me about that and there was oh, it's so cool what you're doing, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, nah, it's for everybody. If you want to get in this, get in the industry, get into tattooing, get into, whatever your pursuit is, pursue your happiness, whatever. I was just chiming off on DMs with somebody and he's like, well, I don't have that opportunity. And I was like, no, everybody has that opportunity.
Yeah.
He's like, my mom's really sick. I'm the only one that can take care of her. It's like, oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, appreciate what you do have and then expand on that as much as you can. The Ink Master thing came with, Christian. He was an apprentice at the shop that I first started at, Wildside. And so when I came in there, I'm like, I'm a known tattooer, but I wasn't, I was, sort of apprenticeship too. I just forged better.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, here's this artist from Alaska and Idaho, he's coming to work in our shop kind of thing, and it was this whole thing. And I was like, it's like, I lost all my pictures, I lost all my portfolio, I only got these 5 tattoos I've done, from some island out in the middle of nowhere, travel's good,
Yeah.
But
so that Ink Master reached out to you or was
he was on it before and he was on whatever season it was, but he was on there. I think he placed 3rd, I believe. He placed up pretty high, and his personality is one that creates a lot of drama. Ink Master, love it or hate it, what it is it's another piece of art. Television is art, right? So
curation
there's a lot of people involved, you know, so
and-
there's a producer involved. There's lighting, there's audio, there's video, you know, and so there's a lot of talent that's involved in it to curate something with a narrative. So it's not necessarily scripted, but it's definitely cards are a little bit stacked, you know, so like going into the entire show, more or less they have an idea of who's going to end up in the top, right?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
live so art is contrast, right? Black and white, right? So like you have the reason why things are bright white, you know, is because they're next to something that's dark black, right? You know, so if this was gray, it wouldn't be, you know, so like so we see contrast, and if you have a bunch of amazing tattooers on one show, there's no contrast, right? You know,
Yeah.
and so if you have a bunch of crap tattooer, you know, then there's no contrast, right? You know, it becomes dull. It's not that interesting. You need that drama, right?
Yeah.
So you need the guys that are just busting their ass, trying to get ahead, and they're competing against with like, you know, big, huge, you know, convention names and stuff, you know, and these people that are well known and competing on that level. It gives people a fair opportunity to be able to step it up. And I think what it did for me is it was such a light on the work that I was doing, because I was really, you know, I was working at what I was doing. I was considerate, you know, I was definitely like, you know, pushing myself, but to have that level of a spotlight on it, I was like, oh, wow, no. And then to see other people, you know, kind of like going through the same stresses, it was different, you know, and it definitely made me more aware, and it made me really want to step up what I was doing. And at that time, honestly, I was kind of I hadn't done a convention before. I haven't done haven't done a single convention. I haven't done a guest spot. I barely watch television. I'm not much of a TV watcher. You know, I draw, I read, you know, but reality shows and stuff, you know, I think they're fine, you know, but I just didn't watch them, you know?
Yeah. So they reached out to him, telling him that there was going to be a new team, sort of a shop, and he needed a partner, right? And I think at that time he was friends with Vic Vivid, and he was working at his shop part time. I'm not sure, but he wasn't like an owner of the shop, but he was like friends with him, working with him. And I ran into him at this like hipster coffee shop that opened up next door. And so I was going to get this hipster coffee, and I was looking, I was like, Christian, shit, hey, congratulations on what you're doing. That's awesome. You know, happy for you. Good job. Cool. You know, cool. Right. You know, have a coffee, you know, left, you know, chatted up a bit, went and looked at Vic's shop. Awesome place. You know, he's probably somebody anyway, but you know, he's a wild dude, you know, it's fun, but yeah, so like, you know, talking to him about it and everything, and he changed numbers and everything and whatnot. And he reached out to me and said, hey, they just contacted me about doing this, you know, this shop challenge thing, you know, shop war thing. And you know, would you be interested? I was like, well, shoot, I never really thought about it, you know? And I kind of waited a little bit. And like I said, I mean, like I was so comfortable in what I was doing and in my clientele at the time, but I was not really that fulfilled anymore. And I don't think I was challenging myself enough. I think that's what life is, right? You know, challenging yourself and meeting, you know, those challenges, right? You know, and so like I was not doing that, and I was not going to conventions. I wasn't, not that winning a trophy means, you know, but it's just putting yourself out there and to be judged and to compete amongst friends, you know, and then to have somebody weigh in on what you're doing that you're proud about. And so I think that's the joy that I get out of doing conventions now. But at the time I didn't have that, and I wasn't working in a shop anymore. And I was doing like a little, did your guest private studio? Or, I'm sorry. Yeah, your like private studio.
It was like a little ghetto private studio.
Like right here, like right off of Sunset, or no?
Was it? No, it was near the Palms. It was near the Palms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was near a shop. It was it was like above a mattress warehouse thing.
Okay.
Bad. Yeah. But it was, you know, it was Victor Whitmill guy who tattooed Tyson and stuff.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking when you said Vivid Dick. I got them too confused.
Yeah. It was his studio that I got, you know, so like you made friends with him over the years and everything, but like he was, you know, he did that lawsuit against Paramount or whoever it was, you know, and so he was flush. He didn't need to tattoo anymore, and he, you know, I think somebody took it over for a little while. And then I bought off of him, but like, but yeah, it was just like a little hole in the wall place, you know, it was great, you know, for me.
Yeah.
But I think that sapped all the energy out of me, you know, honestly, like I didn't have like what I had at Studio 21. I didn't have like that camaraderie. I didn't have like that energy that you get from artists working next to each other.
Yeah. Pushing each other, talking shit.
Yeah, you know, and so I didn't realize like how necessary that was until, you know, and I was able to pursue other things and get in my own head and focus on certain things. But I found like there's a massive hole in my life and in my development now. And so when the whole Ink Master thing came around, it was just kind of like, oh, okay. Wait a minute. No, I haven't done guest spots. I haven't done conventions. I haven't been on TV, you know, like as if I could be on TV, right? But like, I haven't done the TV thing. I haven't really put myself out there, and so I'm not stressing myself. I'm not challenging myself in the ways that I was before, you know. And so opportunity came, and I said, "Oh, why not?" Right? You know.
Yeah.
Well, in order to be on the show, you know, you have to be a bit of a character.
Yeah.
And so knowing that they do like these, it's funny, they do like these video interviews and stuff. And so they have you do a video, take a bunch of pictures and with costumes, right? You know, of clothing.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Okay.
So this is what I look like in a blue shirt. This is what I look like in a whatever.
Okay.
In a fucking V-neck, you know. So I got stuck as the V-neck guy, you know. Like, it's so silly. It's so silly. We gotta
little
have
things that people don't know. Like,
we have to have a guy in a bright green shirt. That's not what they wear. You know?
Yeah.
It's you know, people wear black shirts with you know what I mean. Like they don't. So tattooers do, but yeah, you know. And then so if you watch the show, like there's you know there's an array of different, you know, colors, sizes, and peoples and stuff. And it's the same thing with their shirts. Like, and so when they line people up, you can't have two people with blue shirts next to each other.
Oh yeah.
It's too confusing on TV. You know, so they're very particular. It's an art, right? You know, and they're trying to, you know, have that contrast that, you know, and so I totally get it. But when they did the interviews, I was just, I'm a chill, normal, easygoing dude. I try to minimize stress in life, and I just try to enjoy it for what it is, you know, for the moments as they are, you know, stop and cherish.
They try to gas you up a little bit and like try to poke.
I was on 10. I was like,
oh, you went in there like ready to.
I was a personality.
Really?
Yeah, because that's, you know, like, so I was just whoever I could be on 10. And then I knew like, as soon as I got there, I'm like, okay, I'm back to me, you know, but you know, it was just for me to be able to knowing, you know, cause I didn't watch the show, but I did watch like a few clips of Christian, and I was like, oh, wow, this is okay. What am I get myself into? You know, this is crazy, you know? And so I was like, okay, so, you know, me on 10, 12 even. And so then they go through this whole process. They do a psych evaluation, right? You know?
Well,
so they tell you the psych evaluation is like, oh, so we don't want crazy people on here, you know? And so you're going to be sleeping next to each other and stuff. And, you know, you want some guy in the middle of the night knifing you, you know, whatever, you know? So I was like, oh yeah, appreciate that. Good job, guys. Don't keep out the psychopaths. You go on the show and like, no, they let them in, like for sure. Like they're there. Like
they want them to be there.
We know them. You know, like they want them to be there, you know? And yeah, what tattooer isn't, right? You know, that's like half of us really actually. So going out there and doing the psych evaluation thing and signing this massive contract, the psych evaluation is 500 questions to answer in a half an hour, you know, kind of thing. And so you're just spitballing. But what it was basically like a Briggs-Myers test sandwiched in between like some goofy questions. Like, so when the voices tell you to strangle your partner, what do? You know, kind of thing. You're like, that's weird. You would answer that correctly, you know, like, you know, but then it's also like when you walk into a room, where do you stand, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I remember this. Like, oh, so what they're trying to do is they're trying to gauge chess pieces, you know?
Yeah.
And so they're basically trying to put like two aggressive confrontational people into a very, a situation,
high stress, like
coy, you know, and so they're trying to develop a storyline, right? You know, fair, you know, but it's like going in there and seeing that. The interview process is 2 weeks or 3 weeks sometimes behind. So you'll do the No, if you know the scenario, but basically, like each episode is 3 days worth of filming. The first day is the flash challenge. So you wake up, they mic you. You have the microphone on you the entire time, and you go through the flash challenge thing. It's probably the funner part of the whole deal, because you're playing with goofy stuff you never played with. Everybody's having fun. Nobody's taking it seriously. Not really. They make it out to be serious, but it's not. The time limit thing, not really. You're just trying to figure out how to play with this stuff. So nobody really, it's like, oh, that kind of looks like a face. Like, but then the next day is the tattoo day. That's cake. Yeah, you're a tattooer. You know what you're doing. The whole idea of like, oh, you only got 6 hours. It's like, yeah, you do a 4-hour tattoo. That's all you do. Like you do a 4-hour tattoo, and then you have an hour and a half to polish, and then you have room in case the person can't sit, right? So that's at least how Christian and I approached everything. Okay. Was like, just plan a 3-hour tattoo or a 4-hour tattoo. And then both of us are fairly quick. I'm more efficient at color, and he's more efficient black and gray. And I was okay at black and gray, but at that time, like that's where our strengths were. So we kind of just played to that. The third day was literally everything that you hate about, the reality TV show thing on slow-mo all day long. So it's like 8-10 hours of like interviews and going in front of the judges and this and that, but it's just grueling. Yeah. And so when you're out there, the judges, you go out there and on TV, it's like, oh yeah, you screwed up on the blue. You did the line weight wrong. And that's why this tattoo is horrible. You should be out of here. Right. And then it'll cut to an interview, and it'll be like the guy saying like, man, I hope they don't call me out on the feet. Like the feet, like, I was so worried about the feet when I got it done. That interview was taken 2 weeks post. Right. Okay. So he knew he screwed up the feet. He knew they were going to call him out on the blue, know? And so he's talking about that in a post interview as if it's that moment. Right. So there's mind. It's when you're in it. I didn't know this stuff about TV, production, so I'm just production, and so I'm now getting introduced to this stuff, and it's like, wow, okay, I'm trying to like think my way around. There's no way around it. There's no way. Just do. And I came out there just to do good tattoos, and I just felt like, okay, well, I'll just get as far as I can by doing like solid work. And and in this environment and everything, and I just wasn't a confrontational character. I wasn't like. I guess I'm weird in my own way, but like it wasn't at the time. This show was 8 shops with 8 returning veteran shops, and each episode they were eliminating one veteran shop or one shop, and they were introducing another shop. Each shop would have 2 people, so 8 shops, 16 shops, 32 people, right? So there was a lot of people on my season, right? So there's a lot of airtime that would go towards the most interesting things, that are in a show like that, right? And so like the earlier shows where there were 16 contestants, those 16 got, a decent amount of airtime for each one. But in this one, there's so many, that it was like people were kind of creating things to kind of sell their character, and that's what I didn't like about the and not every season was like that, but mine in particular, I think was kind of more like that, and so I'm not a confrontational guy. I'm a very like, I'll say it how it is from my point of view, but I'll speak my piece, and I lived a life, right. And so, so like that sort of stuff, I really wasn't, I didn't really play into, but I know that was the character and stuff. I didn't want to have to deal with the fallout of that sort of thing. And I also, the type of clientele that you do get from people watching that show, if you're that type of person, it's going to
attract the same type of, which is, and like how it works in real life. Anyway. I always tell my guys that. So how was the fallout?
Well, I mean, the show was fun and everything. Like I said, I mean, it was crazy doing the whole thing, the 3 days and everything. The whole pageantry of it all was weird. I wasn't used to it. It was fun and exciting. The light and all that.
The clientele kind of like
the clientele.
You get a big rush after that. Essentially,
half the clientele was just fans of the show. Most of them didn't have tattoos. Yeah, most of them wanted a T-shirt, which is awesome. Like it's just. I heard somebody say like, no, I don't have any tattoos. I'm not interested in getting them, but it's just so cool. Like seeing like all these wild characters like out there doing weird stuff. And I was like, I get it.
Did you have a website and everything down, or like at that time were you selling shirts of your
I was
self?
So
is that something that people do, or
social
like
media and internet and everything? No, I didn't. No, I had I was working with Vic, and I was working at his shop. I was trying to promote his shop as much as possible, and so I told him, like, I'll stick here for a year and just try to drive traffic towards your new studio.
Yeah.
It's like I think he was working with Robert Foe before.
Oh, okay.
And this was like his first getting out sort of thing.
What's his shop now?
Basilica.
Oh, it is Basilica. Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah. So he's like right down the street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's literally
he moved,
like
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shoot, I got to try.
I haven't stopped in
there and talk to
him. You literally like pull out, take a left, and you're right there.
He's a fun character. He's a good dude. But no, it was definitely worth it. Clientele for sure. Like one of the things that I wanted to do the show for was, again, like, put myself in that stress, but also to now go start doing conventions, go start doing guest spots. And so since then, I'd gone, to Europe. I've gone to UK, Ireland and stuff, and I've done guest spots there and conventions and everything. And that's what I was hoping for in all this, was to try to get a name out there where I could, fast track and almost a way to go to see these shows. I thought it would be so cool to put a sticker on, somebody from, Belgium or something. That was so cool, to be able to do something like that. And it's always awesome when they come here, and you're like, oh, where are you from? You're coming to visit from who knows where. That's cool. Like, that's fun, but I'm just again, like, a fan of life and a fan of culture, and I just love interacting with that. I love traveling. So being able to go to like Scotland, being able to go to Ireland and UK to travel with tattooing,
all of those opportunities really opened up because of Inkmaster. I mean, were these other convention promoters essentially just trying to pull more in people?
They actually reach out to you. Yeah, because it helps promote their convention. This is a time, maybe that's a while back now, but it was a time where conventions were, I don't know, they still do it, but it does help, right? So it's like we have like X amount of, like, it legitimizes their convention to the local,
Yeah,
it's like
I remember seeing
Americans
start to happen, as the Inkmaster people were coming in, and all of a sudden their booth is right next to you, and there's like 20 people surrounding them and just staring at them. And I was like, what the fuck? That's weird. The power of this TV is really insane.
It's insane. When we were doing the finale, I think they said that there's 25 million viewers.
Yay.
Yeah. That's 50 million eyeballs on you.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
To think, so that's weird. Worth it. Totally. It was fun. The experience of it, I don't know if I would go back and do it 1,000 times. I don't know if I would go and do it right now again, like, parties with the kids and stuff, and it was a cool experience to have, but it is a time away from and at that time, anyways, but like, time away from kids and time away from like your girl and everything. It's just not, I don't know, in my world right now.
That was season 9
or season 9.
Oh, okay. I was asking Meta some questions about you just to see what would pop up. And it said you're from Pensacola, Florida, and you have a tattoo shop there, and you were an Inkmaster on season 2. It's telling me some random ass shit, and I was like, this is all not true.
He's the one who started the blue hair trend.
I don't want to go like too far down the hole but about the AI stuff, but we were kind of talking about that and like using your, I kind of would like to talk about your style. Your approach to tattooing is so different from everything that I was kind of brought up. I'm like a black outline guy and like color and stuff, and your stuff is so incredibly unique and different from everything I know. So I'm like, I'm fascinated about your process and how you approach. And we talked a little bit about how you're kind of using at times the AI tools just to expose your client to ideas on a basically like
the way faster, I see more efficient all this kind of stuff. And so I'm almost 3 decades in, right? And so I've seen it trend. When websites came out, it was shunned upon, it's like, this guy's got a website. Look at this. Who is this guy?
I specifically remember getting a call of an older school tattooer, like left a shitty voicemail because I had a website.
Yeah. It's like, hey, you bought a full page ad out of this Tattoo Life magazine. what are you talking about? Like,
yeah.
I read your thing. You wrote that, like all those articles back in the day, written in tattoo magazines was written by the guy who worked there, like it was basically, you would submit pictures and pay for a full page promotion and they would like highlight your shop. Right. And so it's like, give me that, like, you know how it works now. There's some researcher out there going to all these shops and he just found this magical shop and whatever, like, but I mean, there is that too, but, for the most part, like in the early days when people were like shaming that sort of thing, they were shaming rotary machines, they were shaming iPads, they were shaming all of it, and the thing, it's like, hey, if it works for you, keep doing you, man. It's awesome. Like if you want to keep doing it that way, cool. Awesome. But like if there's somebody who's figured out a way to ease the process for them, why not? Right. To allow for more of a creative space for it. Why not? The rotary machines, and when they first came out, this is my big learning lesson in life. I was using coils forever. Not even like a loyal to the coil guy, it's just, I was so familiar with it. And I love tinkering with things and I love tuning and I love, machine building and stuff. And so I really, really love that part of the industry, but it was weighing on me. When we went to disposables, when we went to we got rid of those big, heavy, like full pound, grips, like when we got away from those and started going with disposables that would flex and they were lightweight and everything, you had this like 16-ounce weight countering your wrist and it was destroying me. And I was down to like 2 or 3 hours a day of tattooing. And it was just finally like, I couldn't figure out coils. I messed with them. What machine works? I'm spending like, $600 on each one, whatever, and so I made the transition. I took all my machines and I took them home and I left myself with a Cheyenne pen and I made myself learn it. And I'm not the proudest of those tattoos that year, but it was me pushing myself to, in a comfortable way, to relearn. That was a huge lesson for me, to not like stay in my old ways, because I was debilitating myself where I wasn't actually able to even properly, like I wasn't in it because I was in wrist pain and everything, thinking about carpal tunnel surgery, all that,
Damn. Yeah.
And so getting into the rotary machines, like I can now 12 hours, I'm good. I can still at conventions, I'll do like 36 hours and it's like, I'm fine,
Bro, I don't know.
And so it's just, at that point, it's just other things that start hurting, but it's like my wrist, 100% fine.
Okay.
And so yeah, it was a bit of like about, it was a bit of a wake up call to like, oh yeah, don't be that guy. And I never was like a gatekeeper type of person, but I had questions. I gave my most honest feedback on certain things, it's like, this works, this doesn't work from my point of view. So when iPads came out, when drawing tablets came out, when Wacom's came out first, and I played around with them. It's a lot more tech. It's a lot more this, it's a lot more that. I saw the benefit of it. But I really, really started using it right before the Ink Master stuff. And back then there's a couple other apps besides Procreate, but anyways, like it was neat. It wasn't drawing on paper. It wasn't as satisfying as drawing on paper or painting on canvas, but it was a different type of art. And I love the fact that you can, layer in a bunch of stuff. Before getting into tattooing, I was working in graphic design, high school and out of high school, like in between, like one of the jobs that I had, while working at in the apprenticeship. And so I had a little bit of a background in Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff. So it was fun for me. Like it was like a different way to play with art, right?
Yeah.
And you can compose so many different things. You can layer stuff different. You can mask things.
Collage. And
so when they came out, I started leaning into it more and more, and I started composing pieces where I would even take a picture of their arm, right? And then this is like new back then, but like you would take a picture of their arm and I could show them like, this is what it looks like on you.
Yeah.
Like, and then also for me, you get married into this idea of like, oh, this is going to look great. And you stick it on there like, yeah, why does that not look right? It is because you're now seeing it from a distance, on somebody. And it doesn't, again, your head, it looks like one way, and 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, it works. But then like sometimes you get there and you're like, oh no. Yeah, no, I didn't think the hand was going to be on the backside of his arm, whatever it's going to be. I didn't know the sword was going to be right in the crick, or whatever it may be. And so it just looks off, or, like doing people and like having like their their feet at the bottom of the, so then like when they're wearing a long sleeve, you just see toes or you see feet, or, you know what I mean? Like there's there's certain things that, if you have somebody like holding onto something, and there's some guy saying it, and then, but like when they wear a shirt, then all you see is like a weird little wiener hanging out their arm, it's like that kind of stuff, and so when you actually see it on the person, it's like, oh, wow, now I need it. So having it on the iPad, I can actually quickly, that's not even a question anymore. You can actually just cycle through a bunch of different ideas on body parts. And now with like 3D stuff in Wacom, you can actually like, mask it on or, whatever on there. And you can actually see what it looks like in a dimensional space, right? So for clients coming in,
I haven't played with any of that. I want to do that.
It's, I can, maybe not this time, but I'll walk you through like the little stuff I know. But it's just a nice way to show somebody, it's like, no, this is like my idea. Here's what it looks like, from standing in front of you, turning your arm. This is how it looks, from all different angles, and this is why I want to try to do this, because it tells a story. It walks you through the whole piece. And again, like I like composing large format stuff. So when the color realism stuff started coming out, surrealism, like mashup type stuff started coming out, I did gravitate more towards that, and it was more of a painterly style. The traditional mindset that like hard lines, bold will hold, and all that still stays true, and it does not take much to bring those things back to life, right? Traditional Japanese, traditional, American, whatever, 20 years down the line, you really don't need much time to bring the thing back to 100%, right? Realism takes a little bit more, and because when you're doing realism, you're layering so many different colors together that the subtle little differences between the two don't really shine years from, down the line. So the way to, in my opinion, approaching realism with the idea of bold will hold is high contrast, right? So bold will hold, well, it's contrasting against the skin. So there's like a harsh black against like skin tone. So that's the biggest contrast you're ever going to get. The second would be color contrast. So you have contrast in life, right? So you have black and white contrast, you have color contrast, so you have orange and purple contrast, right? Orange next to yellow does not contrast, right? Orange next to purple looks different, and so you see the immediate difference next to that. So if you have a purple object, Thanos or something like that, and you have like a orangey, fiery background, what pops out, right? Or even if you have like a subtle little light shade on his cheek, of that orange, that glow from the background, it's going to push those purples forward more, and it's going to create that bold will hold kind of thing. Yeah. So it's like building up things with that intention. And with skin tone, we see the same, like in painting, like there's like subtle, like muted green tones in warm colors, right? And it allows warm colors to thrive. And so even if you just do, it's like those little color visual things that so if you just add like a little bit of green shade to a colored piece of a portrait, in the shadows of the cheek and everything. Yeah, now I'm actually increases. It now. That's fun. It's a little thing that actually shows you the contrast. So it actually makes the skin tone. It tricks your eyes into thinking the skin tone is more true than what it is. Because your eyes are actually filling in the space that it actually is. So it's that stuff you learn from like painting and everything. And so I kind of gravitated more towards that and trying to learn and paint and, talk with other realism artists about this sort of stuff, about how to contrast these ideas and these paintings, these large format tattoo paintings to make them last. I'm playing more with like color fusion stuff now. I really like it just because it's fine line black and gray stuff with bold, solid fields of color. Oh, okay. And to me, it kind of it does that in a little different way. But that's what I mean is like the older way of or not in the older way, but like when I was brought into tattooing, and you have to do it this way. It has to be this, it has to be that, it has to be this. That's what was known at the time. And now we have so many different tried perspectives that do actually hold up. and it's irrefutable. Some of this stuff, some of the things I think are still true, like some of the real fine line stuff, but that's also, they're not going for big and bold either, and so you also have to kind of, I think we should be, respective of like the person getting that it's not something that I'm getting, right? But the person who is getting that is kind of collecting in a different way than what we were doing. We were getting bold. They were getting they're getting dainty little, doily-ish kind of stuff, right?
It's a jewelry,
it's a piece of jewelry, right? So for the artists that are doing that and the collector that's getting that, yeah. And if you can pull it off correctly, if you water down, if you're not like blowing out lines, and if you're like subduing like the tones a bit, so it doesn't, have too harsh of a thing, I think you can pull off some great like fine line stuff like that. Again, like it's not my field. I don't know too much about it, but I actually think it's another cool aspect of this industry. Yeah. And it keeps growing, like the, blacking out, this was covering up a lot of stuff. This one's, the negative spaces are carved out of there. Like, so it's so it's like scarification from way back in the day. Right. The stuff people are doing now is they're like layering a lot of white over stuff. And, for the most part, like some of them are, filtering and, photoshopping like the results. But I do feel like there are some honest tattooers out there that are doing massive color pieces over blacked out arms and stuff.
Dude, I just saw Bill Canales did a white dragon on Dave Koenig's.
Yes.
Oh my God. I keep meaning to reach out to
so
Dave.
Cool.
Like, it looks beautiful. I'm like,
that's so rad,
and I was watching the video of him doing it, and he's doing it essentially like a pointillism aspect. So he's just like, I don't know if that was maybe just that specific area he was trying to add texture to, but I need to look more into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing about it is like, there's ink particles that settle in your skin, right? So there's like different sizes of ink particles, and you're just adding more ink particles to it.
Yeah.
Over time, your body, through trauma and stuff, through heat and sun exposure, your body breaks apart these particles and it just consumes it, right? And how tattoos fade, it's just your body cleaning up cancer and everything else, that could be in your body, and it's a foreign matter. So it's cleaning it up. That's what it's supposed to be doing. So by you introducing more, you're just layering tones on top of it, or, color on top of it,
Yeah.
And why not? Right.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that was shunned upon. That won't hold. And it's like, it's not meant to hold that way. It's not intended for this purpose that you're talking about. It's a different form of art, It's
cool.
So it's, I
would like to
think
see that
cool.
in person.
I want to see it in person.
Yeah.
I want to see it in person. I've seen some color ones out there. They're pretty impressive too, and it looks as what you would think it would be. It looks like a color tattoo over black tattoo, but I mean, otherwise it's a blacked out sleeve,
Yeah.
Like I don't know anybody that did this. This was in 2004, I think, when I did that.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody that did that. I think
you're the first person I've ever seen with it.
I don't, back then I didn't know much about scarification either, So Hayworth, I went over to his house, and my friend John, Gomes, that was into it. And so like, we just kind of,
you cut it out with a scalpel? Get the fuck out.
It's some piercing shop.
It gives me the chills.
Yeah. I don't, you definitely
one of my guys, he wants to do, he's like, I think I want to do more blackout work. And I was like, we should do some mock-up blackout sleeves for your portfolio to show off, just kind of joking around. Yeah. But then I'm like, I don't know. I mean, if it's certain, like yours has like a lot of design elements and stuff to it.
Yeah.
Like you could do that. I just never in my whole fucking career ever thought about like mocking up a blackout sleeve. It just sounded funny as I was talking shit. But then I'm like, oh wait, but he starts seeing it as these different shapes and show the client what he looks at. See this wall? It's black. You know what night looks like? It's interesting.
That's what your arms can look like.
But I think it's a thing. And I'm like, yo, you could literally even be like, hey, my hourly blackout rate is fucking 200 or what. I don't know.
That might be a thing. Yeah,
and then
a thing.
Just
why not?
You just show up and you're just manually like, I'll just do this for $200 an hour or something. I don't know. I think it's a thing. But
I don't know, man. So like
I like thinking outside the box.
There's a lot of haters out there that are proud of what they do, and you should be proud of the accomplishments that you have, for sure. And you should be driven to pushing your direction in the industry in a good way, and exploring ideas, and obviously you're not like tattooing underage or like, 20-year-olds faces and, if that's your will too, that's fine, but like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not trying to damage people's lives by putting something stupid on their neck, as long as you're taking into consideration, like, the client and who they are in the world, we all live different lives, I think like exploring different types of art is actually kind of cool.
Awesome.
And that's like what,
it's doing everything you're not supposed to do.
It's like, the whole thing that we got in this industry for.
Yeah, it's like full circle.
Right back around there. Yeah. So like, that's why we got into it. It was outside of the norm. And then now that we've been into it for a while, and now this is a different type of industry for, for our period of 20 years, right? Like what we had started with is the old corporateocracy of this industry, right? And so they're kind of, these guys are breaking the mold, and I love being a part of it. So now, sorry, jumping onto the AI thing, right?
Yes.
Finally getting to that. I think that's yet another tool. I'm super excited for it, just like anything else. It's scary and it's daunting, just like anything else. When tanning beds first came out, they said they give you cancer and you got to be aware of them. You don't want to sit in them, there's all types of scares for new tech that are going to come out, and they're scary because we don't know the result, and you won't. And you will definitely not know how this is going to pan out. We don't know how the when the internet came out, again, like I'm that old, like when that came around, we didn't know how that was going to be utilized. We didn't know how social media was going to be utilized. We didn't know how candid interactions like this were going to be utilized. We talked about that last night. Before, this was like a production where it was curated and you couldn't talk about certain things. So if I had a particular view about Blackout Arms or something like that, it's like, well, we got a Blackout Arms sponsor. You can't fucking talk about that, right? So like that sort of stuff. Like I love this freedom, this libertarian world that we're in. It's express yourself and be out there and reach people, with similar mindset. And so like the AI thing, I think is yet another tool, and I think it can definitely be used irresponsibly. I think that we're going to get a lot more extended warranty calls. I think we're going to get a lot more invasive telemarketing type stuff. I think we're going to get a lot more accurate product placement in our feeds and everything. I think that's definitely going to be a part of life.
What do you think tattooers are going to be using it for?
The tattooers?
Yeah, like how to
So what I use it for is I definitely use it to help compose ideas, and to this dragon I was working on yesterday, she had given me an example of what she kind of liked, Pinterest something or another, and I was able to spitball a half dozen ideas at her. So this one looks like stone. This one's kind of, this one's kind of that. This is more of a traditional.
Are you using Midjourney?
I'm using Midjourney and Leonardo.
I haven't used a
couple little ones. Yeah. Leonardo's awesome. So they both have their strengths and weaknesses. I'm pretty versed in Midjourney. My friend
like learning your prompting and everything, and how to like communicate with
but there's also like your ratios. You can dictate the ratios on there. You
like
can
ratios
actually,
meaning like
like your like 1:2, 5:7.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
you can change those sort of things. You can change the weight of the seating on there. You can actually blend two pictures together. So you can have a picture.
You can upload images, and then
you can have a picture of your puppy or something like that. And then say I would like a whatever.
That's true. Cartoon. I fucked around with it back in the day. I did like a black line work flash sheet, just like a traditional kind of thing, and then I uploaded it, and it fucking colored it, and I was like blown away in the middle of the night, like looking around, like what the fuck is going on? I think it's a cool ass fucking tool, and I think that everybody, I personally just think everybody should play with it and just see what they can come up with it, even if they're against it or whatever. I don't know.
It's toothless, I mean, there's some nefarious things you can do with it, but just like anything else,
if you're lazy, you're gonna still be lazy with AI. If you're not, and you want to, like you said, I'm gonna throw out 50 designs here. I'm gonna pick fucking little elements of each one. And then I'm gonna work with AI to find those, and then all of a sudden I might get more of a fine-tuned, and then I'm gonna fucking illustrate over the top of that and with it or whatever. I don't know.
Tomorrow's piece that I'm working on, it's a 2-day penumbra, the breath of life kind of thing. And so the idea is a girl, with wind and fire sort of thing. And so I did a Baroque mock-up of a girl, a nude dancing in fire, right? And so I used Midjourney a lot to compose a lot of different versions, variations from there. Probably spent maybe a day on that there. And then with Leonardo, I maybe even spent another couple days on there. At the time, I was still, this is a while back when I was composing it, but I was able to, send this guy 4 completely different versions of the idea in high detail and tattoo ready,
so great.
So what I did,
you still need to be able to execute the tattoo.
I composed,
and I think that's
you a fucking
fantastic fucking tattooer.
Yeah, and even like it's composition, positioning, the ideas behind it, what to actually. So like in imagery, in contrasting again, one of the things is imagery contrast. I don't know if we talked about this before, but like if you have a bunny and a kitty cat next to each other, they don't contrast. There's
you have
nothing
too fluffy
there.
soft.
There's too fluffy soft. That's what you think, right? But if you have a bunny rabbit and a hammer, like automatically it invokes an emotion.
That's true. Yeah.
It's like, why would that invoke an emotion? It's just 2 objects, right? You have a hammer and a screwdriver, no emotion, right? Screwdriver and a kitty cat. It's like, what are you fucking doing? It's psycho, right? But it's us artists also like using imagery to play on each other to help tell the story of what the client wants to convey, right? So that's our duty, and also to do a solid job and having the technical ability to compose or to actually complete the tattoo. So AI is yet another tool, and again, like with his. I was having fun with it, and I felt like I was going to use it for a lot of other things too. Phoenix designs and stuff, So if he didn't like 1 or 2 or whatever, then I could use those for other projects, But yeah, I spent maybe like 3 days on it, on his, the 2 on Midjourney, or the one on Midjourney and the 2 on Leonardo. And then once I had a clump of images, almost 1,000 images, then I started in Procreate, I started like mashing parts and pieces together that I liked. And then I went in, I have a Adobe image account too.
Oh, okay.
And so,
which they generate photos.
They generate, there's AI, you can tick that off if you wanted to, but there's a lot of like photographers, that and it does, pay photographers, so like you can put photos on there, and then as people use them, you get, credit from it, so like that's just a way to promote or a way to help, spread it and everything. And yeah, I've done Pinterest tattoos in the past too, but like I felt like the subscribing to like a Shutterstock or to the Adobe. I like the Adobe platform more. I think there's different stuff, but I do like the idea of like but also paying like the talent that took that photograph. I love photography. I'm into it. More into like scenic photography and astro stuff. But actual like portrait photography is a talent, and actually being able to compose your model is a talent. So I do like supporting those people too. I've hired plenty of photographers in the past, for personal stuff. And I do like the idea of that. So I've done Pinterest. I've done taken free images off the internet, but I also like try to support as much as I can too.
That's cool.
But for that, there's people that have taken pictures of fire in different aspects, and so like I use a lot of that, or I use a lot of these other elements or pocket watches or whatever. Like there's so much, and there's so much out there, and it's a small subscription that it's part of your business, so it's a write-off at the end of the day, But so I took the AI design, mashed up, I don't know. For each one, I gave him 3 different options on it. And each one, I think I had about 5 different images overlaid on each other or more. And I just like, this arm's better, this composer, this whatever, But, since it's changing little things, I had to kind of change some of the highlights to match with how the rest of the pieces, lit.
How are you mapping all that shit out, like, and stenciling it, going from your completed image, like, I haven't really actually worked with too many like color realistic or any people. Okay. So it's like, I just,
so old school way is like hand stenciling, right?
And plotting out each like gradient.
And then the newer way in is the difference tool in Procreate. So you basically duplicate a layer. That layer you turn black and white. Duplicate that layer, and now you have a and then so what you do is you go into the little tab where you make it multiply or whatever, you change that to, I believe it's difference towards the bottom of it, and it finds the difference of those, so like I believe it's called difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what it'll do is it'll almost white out the entire thing, and it'll just have like the darker, harder contrasted areas. I think it like negatives the thing, but like then you take the Gaussian blur and you move it up a little bit until you can kind of see somewhat of a faint, detailed portion of the thing, and it's just the contrasted edges of stuff. Once you do that, collect those two layers together, making it one. Then you contrast that. So you go into your curves, you rebalance it so that it's a higher contrast. Now you have a textured, detailed picture of what you're doing. Then
gradient map.
Then you reduce its opacity, overlay it over the first image, right? And then you line it as you would. And so now, like, as you're doing it, then you have like all the information for like the shadows in like corners of hairs, or little soft spots on the cheeks, or like, edges of like wood grain or something like that. You have all that texture built into it, and you don't need to literally line every single one. I still do like traditional lining on there. And then so I'll take that out. I use the Brother printer, the PocketJet printer. It's not the best. There's other things out there that are really nice, but the PocketJet for me is a consistency thing. So if I'm printing and doing a tattoo in my shop, and then I go and do a guest spot, it's the exact same. When I do a convention, it's the exact same. It's a small little unit,
Great. Yeah.
All the the graph paper I'm using is all the same, and so it's more of a consistency thing to me. So there's definitely like the StencilJet printers and all that, and they're great. I've used them; they're awesome. There's a lot of cool stuff that's out there and probably getting better. But for me, it's a consistency. So I map out the tattoo using that little technique. Then I traditionally line the parts that I need. And I'll even actually go through and erase part of what was on that little thing that I made. But having the iPad right there so you can in front of you and you can actually go, like, what is that? Oh, that's a belly button or whatever, So you can kind of easily go through the thing and not have to decide. Remember, like a star, whatever they're called, but like, just black and white star, black and red star, like, and how many of those you saw, like
nautical star, right?
And so like two sides are colored, where it's like,
how many?
I'm going to color this one, I'm going to color that one, I'm going to color this one. Wait a minute.
Done that shit before myself.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't we just make this one
make it stone,
or whatever? There you go. Yeah, exactly. Hey, let's just shade these.
Yeah.
So like it helps you not make those mistakes in like a realism piece, and otherwise it would just take forever, because then it's like repainting.
My brain just doesn't.
With starting to finish, you generally work from, you're not rubbing out the stencil. You're a bit more critical about that. Same process as most, I think, people applying stencils. I shave every single time.
Yeah.
To me, it's exfoliating dead skin cells. It's scraping off oil, grime, whatever else is on there.
Yeah.
So I clean the skin first, shave it, alcohol. Alcohol is going to
feels great. Yeah,
right?
Nice and dry.
It wakes them up, and coffee.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it really clears the palette. And it's a little bit of a methodical thing too, because then I'm kind of getting a weird way like introduced to the palette that I'm going to work on, the thing I'm going to work on.
Okay.
So it just familiarizes me with it a little bit more.
The geography of the canvas.
And I definitely try to shave and clean way out beyond, what it is, unless it's a forearm thing and they got, hand on it. I always leave a patch on the top of their hand.
Do you?
Oh God, yeah. I never shave that.
That's funny.
I let them wear that. I let them wear that glove.
I had somebody call me out one time. And I was like, "Are you just going to leave me like a fucking mitt?"
Oh, yes.
Mitt? And I was like, all right, bro. Extra fucking man shaving.
well, you got to match the other
stuff. Yeah.
So, and so by that primer, let it kind of dry a little bit, stick it on there, it stays forever. When I'm doing multiple days back to back, it's working almost in a printer-like fashion. We're kind of like ticking up to a point where there's a hard break. Soft line, hard line stuff, like a soft line faded off. The hard line would be the edge of a sword or something. So I hard line up, to that line. And then the next day I can actually go right next to that a little bit into what I did the day before. But then it's like, it's on a very, fine
That's
line. Some people you can get away with stuff and some days you can't.
Super fascinating to me today is that these clients are doing back-to-back days, like
3 days.
We were taught, I mean, that you can't do the outline, you come back in 2 weeks and you do the shading and color.
Well, you can't even do
now it's like
3,
or you're not allowed to do pointillism. I was told that you were not allowed to do pointillism because it'll just blow out, and you can never use a mag sideways or it'll split the arm open.
It's like, okay. Now thinking back, it's like, what the hell were you guys doing?
The first fucking chance I had to try it, I did it, and I was like, oh no, it's not. It's fucking
that's easier. Yeah,
that's funny. But yeah, the clients are getting, so you're getting a lot of like, you'll get 2 days at least, like back to back, or
most
one.
I rarely have a single day appointment. Most of my pieces are either 2 or 3 days. If I can do them back to back, I do. I'm okay with it, but I definitely prefer staggering those 2 days. So my second approach, instead of like the printer thing, because that one, it's like a lot of like tedious filling into a point of stop, completion for the day. The way I prefer is layering. And so the approach that I have with that is it's my outline. I'm roughing in all the dark areas and light areas. And so I'm kind of lining, shaping things, all the things that are going to be extra rich, so like triple black areas here, white highlights here, that kind of stuff, and then I do like a little bit of mid-tone texturing here and there. And then the following appointment, a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks later, is where I almost do the entire tattoo over again. And so I have the tattoo on it, but now I can really, really layer things in. I don't have to worry about abusing the skin too much. I don't have to worry about healing issues. And what it's doing is it's almost like doing your touch-up session prior. So you're getting like the rich blacks, the hard contrast that you get from having those real deep blacks, and you're getting to punch in those highlights twice, And so it really sets it home. And
what's your go-to
black? Most oftentimes it's hard to. I'm sorry.
And so what's your go-to black right now? Just curious to interrupt you, but I'm like, I just know
Pantera. Yeah. That's like, it seems. I don't know. Like,
feels right.
Feels right. Revolution's got like a dozen blacks. I don't know why. Like I've tried a couple, but it's hard because then you need to see something like months later. You need something that has been out in the sun to see what it looks like. And triple black is just basically like 3 different dense blacks with a lot of carbon into it. It seems consistent enough. I used to use all fusion. I'm kind of branching out. I still like a lot of fusion colors, like a lot of world famous. So kind of branch out a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, so
sorry,
I guess that's my approach now. Yeah. The hard contrast thing, the ability to go back and kind of like re-layer in things. I think for me, like it helps me set at home. Aftercare wise, I've tried the second skin stuff. I really got onto the puppy pee pad thing. About that?
Yeah, just
so Russians that I had met back in the day, they've been doing it forever. And when I was first, it's like, use a pee pad, and I was like, the fuck are you talking about?
Like the gauze, like the plastic. Yeah.
I told Val about it, and she's like, my wife, and she's like, oh, those are chuck pads we have in the hospital. Like, what? And she's like, that's what,
all moisture for
moisture. It's a moisture lock thing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. It's a big Band-Aid without the sticky thing.
I personally like those better too.
I like them better.
The no adhesive.
No adhesive.
Yeah.
I use the context wrap, whatever the stretchy wrap stuff. I use that to tie it on instead of tape, so it flex a little bit better.
Yeah.
And it doesn't like constrict so much.
It's like bulky and kind of messy, but if you can clean it up with the Sensi wrap and stuff. But it absorbs so much.
If my favorite is, I'll do that when I'm like heavily saturating something. I know I'm abusing the skin. I know I'm pushing it a little bit, and the next day, if my ideal situation is if I can do that and then have them come in the following morning, I'll even come in on a day off, just for that sake. And then I'll do the second skin wrap on there.
Oh, okay. After the fluids, like the initial 24-hour fluid is gone.
Yeah. And so it's purged everything, and then I can really clean everything again. I just do the intense. It's like it's that green soap. I think it's like green soap concentrate without the alcohol or anything in there. And then you can concentrate or dilute as much as you want. I use that. I clean the hell out of it again. And then I apply that second skin on there. So many different brands out there. I've used Tegaderm. I've used
You ever seen any weird reactions come back from the sun? Yeah.
Yes.
Or like my wife, she got the small we got these small tattoos. I don't even know, maybe like 6 months ago or whatever. And so they were healed, obviously, but we were in
away from the sun.
Yeah. So we were in California. She got some sun, 2-inch square white area around the tattoo as her tan came in. So we're talking 6 months later.
Whoa. I don't know. No, I haven't seen that.
I've seen that on one of my clients one time, and then I stopped using it because I was like, I don't even know what the fuck this is. I'm not doing this anymore. So, but I
thought you were talking about the second skin thing. I've seen reactions from that too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, right? Like the second skin, like the small, your clear bandage you're putting over the top, the breathable.
Wait, okay. So you took the bandage off.
Yeah. The tattoo was healed so that she kept it on for like 2 days, takes it off, washes it off with soap and water, pat it dry, lubricate, blah, blah, blah. 6 months later, we're at fucking SeaWorld and I see the white square come up on her skin.
I have not seen this.
I've seen it on mine, and the lady was tripping. She was like, I went on vacation. It was like months after I tattooed her, and she has this fucking giant white square around her, and she's tan. I'm like, ay.
Have you seen anybody burned from it?
No.
I got a friend whose neck is burned pretty bad from it.
He's allergic to the adhesives in there or something. Yeah.
I won't name the brand.
Yeah.
But
it's weird.
Yeah, it's a very popular one, and the company had switched its manufacturing to a place that wasn't very product controlled. And he has like a rose on his neck with a big square burn around it. Still, years later, 5 years later.
Yeah,
he's a tattooer.
I like the pee pad idea. I just think the pee pad idea is the way to go.
And so that's just it. It's like each aftercare has its like pluses and minuses. Like I still think A&D is fine. I still think Aquaforce fine. I think there's some really great shea better stuff out there that's great. That's awesome. But everybody's gonna have nobody's gonna well, and every single person's totally right. Too, so like the mango or whatever in this other product. They have some people have reactions to the scent. So like not every product is going to work with everybody. And so you have to kind of, in my opinion, you have to kind of weigh out like how well it's going to survive the healing process. And so if the person is a fireman, policeman, something like that, where they're going to in the fire, they're going to have carcinogens around them. If they're a policeman, they're going to have like their life, their works, and their tattoo exposed to that. So what is the cost of the balance, right? So do you risk that, like, so if they're going to be going to work next week, I'll go in and I'll create, like, I'll add that barrier. So that kind of helps you in your world, right? Or if they have 8 dogs at home, or whatever it may be. Right. So I don't know. There's a little bit of a there's no one way to skin it. Right.
I love how you're obviously talented, and what I love how much thought you put into not only your tattoos, but how it affects the longevity, the customer's experience. And like, that's all something that I think a lot of us all could always step up more, it's like take into consideration. Right?
It's like, that's what we want, that's, like we want to be treated as people, we want our ideas to give experience, as it's like, wow, want to, it's like, wow, I'm really thinking about getting a pocket watch and rose, and I'm thinking about adding some Celtic knotwork to it. And it's like that, it's like there, you could still make that cool. Like there's no shame to it. There's like an anti-filigree campaign right now. There's like an anti-tribal campaign. There's like, it's like things took off because they were done well and they looked good, you know? And so like even the lower back tramp stance, like at the time, like they looked good,
Now they're
same thing with the underburst thing, the bust thing, like it looked good, and so like, but the thing is like there's a hating of certain things, and it's like, why don't you just tweak it? Why don't you just put your own flair on the thing? If you hate it so much, but if somebody wants it, somebody desires it, why not? Somebody's still going to come into your shop tomorrow and want a full Celtic knotwork sleeve, and you're sitting there doing nothing because you're fucking a hater. So what are you going to do? That's something
you should try to do your best and put your time and energy into it.
Shop owners are doing their damnedest to get people in the doors. I know there's some bad shop owners out there, but most shop owners are trying to do their damnedest to get people in the doors. And it's so disrespectful to sit there on your hands and say like, oh, that's beneath me.
Yeah.
It's like, what, you're not doing it. You're busy, and this guy, that's his thing. He wants to do it, and certain things obviously are bad, or like obviously offensive tattoos, or like, your girlfriend's name on your neck when you're 18, right? You know, like, you know, little things like that, or tattooing her face on your face, you know, like have you seen that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Don't do that, you know, but I mean, like if somebody wants like, you know, whatever, you know, it'd be a tribal sleeve or whatever, you know, like, oh, I just saw Dust Till Dawn. It's going to be, you know, this is the new thing. You know, let them, you know, do it and do a bang up job. And why not? Right. You know, like, you know, you're not a slave to, but you have to also respect like the, you know, what that person, you know, likes, you know, and I think like as an artist, like in today's, in any world, like it's up to us to kind of like put a different spin on there and kind of make it cool, make it edgy and bring it back some way, you know? And you see people do it and it's always impressive when they do. And so I'm humbled when I see that, when I see that sort of thing. It's like, oh man, like to redo a Taz today, you know, to redo a Tasmanian today, or like I did like a, you know, a wizard with a globe and stuff, you know, I was, you know, that's like, awesome. I was a cool throwback kind of thing, you know, it's like, it's fun, you know, like, you know, how can you take like these old things and kind of make them fun again, you know, in a different way, you know, your own light. So I don't know. The thing that has, even though I had that moment where I was thinking about like the thing that kept me back in tattooing, what drew me in the first place, I left, came back, you know, thought about, you know, the thing that keeps drawing me back to it is there is no ceiling to this. It's constantly evolving. You will never perfect this. There's always going to be a new twist on things. And after 30 years of thinking that we were hitting the ceiling,
it's just about to
it's going, you know, and it's
getting wild.
It's getting wild. It's and now there's a new emerging, you know, tech out there, and there's going to be another one. I would say for younger artists out there, be technically proficient, work on that, right? You know, work on your art as well, you know, of course, right? You know, work on your composition, work on your, you know, work on how it's viewed overall, you know, work on the story of the tattoo, work on, you know, body lines and everything, you know, walk the viewer through the tattoo. One thing leads to another, that Dave does a great job with that. But yeah, also be a very technical tattooer. I think for me, it's best to be accomplished in multiple different styles. So I really lean into color, but I really do like fine line black and gray stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's fun. And they're amazing artists out there, and it just seems impossible to get anywhere near what they do, you know, with some of it, but it's also that pursuit of perfection, I think, that drives us, you know, and so that striving to be better as a person, you know, fulfills us. I think that's important, you know, and being inspired by others, I think is also important, you know. It keeps us all going around, you know, and I don't know, I love that part about this industry. I don't think that's going away anytime soon. I hope I don't foresee our industry, you know, it's changing constantly, but I don't think it's ever going to go. It can't really go away. It's such a cool subculture that had been around through the dawn of time that I don't know, like it's a way for us to tell our stories to other tribes. You know, it's a way for us to convey who we are. And at the time that, you know, you and I started, it was a whole different period from where it is now. And you can't expect 20 years from now to be any, you know, to be the exact same as what it is today. Right. You know, it's going to be turned on its head a dozen more times. Right.
Gotta keep an open mind.
These are the cards that were being played. So play them. You know, play them as best as you can, you know, and dictate the world on your terms. If you want to be a coil artist, if you want to just do stick and poke tattoos, if you want to, you know, do the traditional Tori, you know, if you want to do that, like, awesome. Do it. Have fun with it, you know? If you want to, you know, compose a piece like, you know, with, you know, pastels and stuff beforehand, awesome. Do that, you know, like that's your edge. That gets you noticed, right? That gets you seen. That's why people come to you. They appreciate that, you know. And if you're the guy, you know, who's, you know, utilizing AI and iPads, you know, to get your point across to your clients, you know, if that helps you out, do it. You know, don't be ashamed of it. You know,
for sure.
I think there's a big, there's a lot of like traditionalists that that we learned it this way. There should be no other better way, you know, because that means I have to learn something new, right? You know, so that's not healthy. The one thing that I have seen change in the industry is the gatekeepers they're becoming smaller and smaller, right? You know, and I love the rising tide. You know, the rising tide raises all ships, sort of thing. I love that. You know, and it's so true. The better we all become as artists, the better the clientele, the better we're getting tattooed, obviously, you know, like the better work comes out there, the more people are inspired to get more tattoos, right? You know, so like if somebody goes and has a horrible experience, you know, the guy was on pills, the guy was, you know, dick this up, you know, it's not even what I wanted, you know, the person that has that experience, they're not really inclined to get a lot more work done. The guy goes and gets an amazing piece, you know, and say he does go to a convention and they give him a little, you know, plastic, you know, trophy thing to it, you know, and it's like, you know, it's like, it's a good feeling, you know, and it's a good feeling to know that it's like, yeah, this guy busted his ass on this. He worked his, you know, and this guy's really, you know, he's got a thing that he's doing that nobody else does. And I don't know, like that elevates the industry because now somebody else is looking at his arm, they're looking at his piece and they're saying, wow, that's impressive. So why don't we just do that with all of us? There's plenty, you know, and the thing is it actually brings more people into the industry. So the TV thing, people hated on that, but I also saw that as a way to reach out to people. People who will never even get tattoos, but at least it familiarizes us to them, right? You know, I feel
like it's a huge reason why we're all super busy these days. like we talked about last night. It's been on TV. Tattoo TV has been on for 20 years now.
Insane.
Yeah, it's really wild, dude.
Like, and before, like that kid, he was telling me, he was like, you know, it's just a bunch of, you know, weird characters doing, you know, odd stuff. And I was like, oh, I get that now, you know, but it actually humanizes us. Yeah. It makes us, you know, it brings us into the living room and it's like, no, we're not like the scary, you know, outlaw biker club guy.
No, now all your doctors are getting tattooed. I'm like the list of attorneys that I tattoo, you know, they're all people with money and they're willing to pay for a better experience and better artists. And it's fucking fantastic. Like, why would I not want that? So
it's the best. I'm super happy with that.
Yeah. Well, shit, man, we should wrap it up. We are, I'm just super thankful for you to take the time. I know you got some work to do today and got to finish up your guest spot.
I know we can talk for hours and hours.
Yeah, we talked for like 2 hours on the phone last night almost. I was trying to, I just greatly appreciate you taking the time to be here and everything.
Yeah, man.
You know, it's fun.
I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate like everything that you do on your side of the world for your people and your family and everything. But you told me last night, you know, like, you know, retiring your folks. That's so cool. It's
crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate you giving me the space and be able to yap for an hour, you know?
So how do we find you? Like, tell us your Instagram, your website, whatever you got going on. What's your best way?
Probably the easiest. Yeah. It's at Noelin Wheeler, Noelin Wheeler, Wheeler. The website and everything is Savage Son. But Instagram is, I think,
your
like
tattoo shop in San Marcos.
The tattoo shop in it's a tattoo shop in Austin. Live in San Marcos.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I couldn't remember if you were in or out of town.
Yeah, the shop's in Austin. It's a private studio. It's a little hideaway for me. It's you know, it's a little bit more, you know, little rustic modern kind of thing. But it's quiet. And it's I don't know, work 12 hours work on you know, mostly large projects, you know, but I try to make it as chill as possible. So and I'm also going to be traveling to Vegas again. I'm going to make this in my annual rotation a few times a year. Yeah. I'm going to be in Yelm, Washington in a couple weeks, doing a guest spot up there. I also did like a charity raffle thing for 22 to None. It's an organization that helps families with vet suicide, you know, and deal with that. Okay. So I'm trying to become more a part of the community up there, and
like
and I'm
Pacific
also
Northwest, right?
Pacific Northwest,
Montana. And
I'm gonna try to get to my buddy James's shop in Montana. I think maybe July. I don't know. I'm gonna hit him up about that. You know, maybe I can make a trip out there before the new one comes. Yeah. But this is gonna be my new little rotation now that life is settling down a little bit. It's still crazy, and anyway, but like it's a fun trip, man.
Let's get you back in, and I want to do the round table type things. Maybe next time you're out here, like get like 3 or 4 tattooers just to talk about certain subjects. I think would be real fun. So let's do that.
Yeah.
And this will be a little ways out as far as coming out, but
let me know.
Yeah, we'll be there. But awesome, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you, Noelin. Greatly appreciate it. And get out there and support your local tattooers, man. All right. Have a good one. Bye, guys.
Take care, guys.